Haven't touched Russia's energy sector. Here now, Nile Gardiner, former advisor to Margaret Thatcher, director of Heritage Foundation's Thatcher Center for Freedom. If we're going to wage economic and financial war on Russia, we are doing a job of it now.
Well, Dagan, thanks very much for having me on the show today. And, as you point out, I think the Biden administration has been far too slow to move in terms of sanctioning the Russians. We need to ensure that the Russian economy is really brought to its knees. We need to ensure that Russia does not have the financial ability to wage war in Ukraine. This is a barbaric invasion of Ukraine, and the United States has to do all it possibly can to isolate the Russian regime. We cannot allow the Russians to get away with its attempts to carry out this barbaric invasion. And in my view, Biden has been far too weak-kneed on the global stage. He hasn't shown the kind of leadership that is absolutely needed in order to confront the Russian regime. And we have to treat Putin as not only as our adversary, but also completely isolate him on the international stage. And that includes in all international forums. We have to ensure that the Putin regime is not allowed to threaten the free world.
So roughly 40%, only 40% of Russia's GDP has been sanctioned. 60% of Russia's GDP has not been sanctioned. And now a lot of that falls on Europe. They cannot afford to cut off the natural gas and the oil flowing into the West out of Russia. The U.S. can do it. Say we're going to embargo the oil because it's a tiny amount of what we import and consume every day. We could up production here, but ultimately it falls on all Western countries and even some like Japan to tolerate a recession in order to stop Vladimir Putin. And we don't see that. You got California wants to send $400 in gas relief, just $400 checks to people who don't even drive. That's not suffering.
Yeah, the reality is that, the European approach towards Putin has been an approach of appeasement, and we're still seeing that actually from the Germans. The Germans are not actually applying the full weight of sanctions that need to be applied against the Russian regime. The European Union will be energy dependent upon Russia until 2030, according to EU officials. And so the European Union isn't doing enough. Germany's not doing enough. France isn't doing enough. Only Great Britain and Europe is actually leading in terms of confronting Putin's Russia. And Joe Biden refuses to apply the kind of pressure that is needed upon our European partners, especially the French and the Germans, in terms of cutting off energy dependence upon Russia. Basically, the Russians have been, sort of, in a way, holding Europe to ransom for many, many decades. And European leaders have been weak-kneed in the face of, Russian intimidation. They are not doing enough in terms of breaking free from dependence upon Russia. And, so the whole entire approach by the European Union actually has been absolutely appalling. And, it is sending a message of weakness and appeasement towards the Russian regime, completely unacceptable. But, the reality is the Biden White House isn't applying the kind of pressure that is absolutely needed upon some of our European allies. And, Biden has, I think, failed to project the kind of powerful, strong, robust American leadership that is needed on the international stage.
Well, that's why I go back to Grozny and Aleppo, because Europe, particularly Germany, as you pointed out, was becoming more and more and more dependent on Russia for energy. And then as they were trying to go green and use more wind and solar, when you knew what Putin was capable of. That's what I never understood. And we're still weak on China. China is allied with Russia, and we have yet to sanction UnionPay. Russia, after Visa and MasterCard got cut off, They've turned to China's union pay. And we are seeing a rapid-fire realignment of world power with Russia and China. And China's now talking to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is discussing accepting the yuan for payment of oil that China buys. The Biden administration just completely turned its back on Saudi Arabia and has alienated that country, refusing to back essentially letting the Houthi rebels in Yemen begin attacking Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. This foreign policy on behalf of the Biden administration is abominable.
Yes, I mean, I agree, Dagan. I think, the Biden foreign policy has been an absolute catastrophe. It has been a policy of appeasing America's adversaries on the global stage, from Moscow to Beijing to Tehran, while throwing U.S. allies under the bus. And so, what kind of message does this send about American leadership on the global stage? It is a message of absolute weakness, failure, and as a result, I think many of America's allies don't trust the United States under Joe Biden's leadership. And so it is. It is an approach that fundamentally undermines the projection of American leadership and power globally. It's a dangerous approach. It undermines, I think, the security of the free world. And I think that, Biden is literally sort of sleeping from behind on the international stage. He's not demonstrating the kind of leadership that is absolutely required by the United States at this moment. Our enemies are taking note. And without a doubt, both Russia and China are emboldened. Beijing and Moscow are working more closely together. And President Biden seems to be oblivious to the fact that, the United States is declining on the world stage under his watch, while our enemies are becoming more and more aggressive. So we do need strong, robust U.S. leadership on the world stage. Unfortunately, Joe Biden is not the man to deliver that. He's quite incapable of doing so. And I think the U.S. is in a precarious position right now globally.
Nile, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here always, sir. Nile Gardiner. We'll see you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you, Dagan.